I want to talk about how I approach working with trauma in general, why this is the theme of the course, is making trauma therapy safer. And that is that I have found that trauma as a process can be very volatile. It can very quickly run out of control, and the client can end up in overwhelm, psychotic spaces, totally dissociated, etc. And that's what I'm trying to avoid. And that's always been my goal in doing it, because I found also that in my working with my own therapy myself and in working with clients, that it's just so easy for that to happen. And so I've always approached trauma in this careful way that I do, but it wasn't until I started training other people that somebody reflected back to me what I was doing. And I realized that I was approaching working with trauma in the same way that I had taught some friends to drive when I was in college. I was the first person in my group to get a car, and a couple of my friends asked me if I'd teach them how to drive, and I had a stick shift car, and they wanted to learn stick shift and all that. And I said, sure, before I even had thought about it and what the ramifications might be. And then, but the weight of the responsibility finally hit me. The first person I had sitting in my driver's seat, and in my country it's the driver's seat's on that side, and I was in the passenger seat, and I realized I didn't have any controls for the car, and they didn't know how to drive it, and I was going to let them move my car along the road. And I became very quickly worried for my own safety, and worried about how my father would react if I let a friend mess up my car, and what the insurance rates would be and all that kind of thing. So as I was sitting there a bit nervously with my friend, I realized that the first thing I wanted to do before I let them do anything else with my car was I wanted to know that they could find the brake. I wanted to know that they could always stop the car, no matter what, and that they could stop it quickly, automatically, as a reflex. And so the first thing I did was drill my friend, drill her, it was a woman, in how to find the brake. You know, she had to look at first and distinguish the 3 pedals, but then I made her look out the dash and put her foot down on the ground, and then I'd say brake, and she'd hit the brake, brake, she'd hit the brake. And only once she got really good at it and found the brake and not either of the other pedals every time, did I let her turn on the ignition, ease out the clutch, roll forward a little bit, hit the brake, you know, and then gradually build it up. And this is how I see working with trauma, is I don't want my client to go any further into a process than I know and they know they can pull themselves out of. This has a lot of different advantages. One is that it really keeps them safer, it keeps them saner. It decreases their distress between sessions, decreases their distress in sessions, and it also eventually gives them more courage to go to, or for the ones who it's appropriate for anyway, gives them more courage to go to difficult places because they have the confidence, they build the confidence that they can come out again. And so that's what a lot of this, or the basis of the rest of these days is going to be built on, is theory and principles for how to put on the brakes. And for that I also have a visual aid, which is my bottle of Coca-Cola. This is why I wanted to take this. This is my traumatized client. And clients come to us, traumatized clients come to us already shaken up. You know, just as this might come into your house from the boot of your car, from the trunk, shaken up as it's bounced, you know, on the way home. Traumatized clients are getting shaken up all the time. And just as this gets more pressurized, this bottle comes under more pressure, or internal pressure, as it gets shaken up, so do our traumatized clients as they get triggered in their daily life. They're getting more and more pressured. And so what we want to do, or what I want to teach you to do, is when they come to you in their shaken up state, is to how to relieve that pressure without making a mess. Okay. And the only way you can do it is gradually. So, and I don't want to, when I did this yesterday, Michael Kern was right in the front row, and I was pointing at him sort of threateningly, and I don't want to really threaten any of you, but I'm sort of experienced in this. I'm fairly confident. So I don't want to make a mess of myself and my nice suede jacket. But anyway, so the way you basically do it is you do a little bit and you put on the brakes. Could you hear the psst? And a little bit more and put on the brakes, and you can see the overwhelm is starting to rise. So you want to put on the brakes so that it can break down again. I think that British Coca-Cola is more fizzy than American.
You should definitely say, wow.
I was saying yesterday that somebody in a course once gave me a bottle that was half frozen, and that was even more difficult to work with. And somebody came up to me in the break and was saying that there was also an analogy for that the clients who are more frozen, actually, they are much harder to bleed the charge off of, and she went quite far with that, and I thought, hey, you know, it totally fits. But okay, so you can see you wait a while, maybe we talk about gardening or a movie they've just seen or something, and then they're calmed down a bit, and then we can take a little bit more. You hear that? See, that was a little easier there because we took a nice break. And now it's possible to open it. And that's what I do with my clients in each session, is the pressure comes up and we slowly bleed off the charge, taking breaks along the way so that we can open up the cap safely. Okay. And then they, you know, they go out into their world and things trigger them and they get, I'm not going to do it a lot now because I know if I shake this up too much I won't be able to open it for a while, but they get shaken up in their daily life and they come back again, or they phone you on the phone and you bleed off a little more and you're able to open it up and they're more calm. And if I do this with this bottle, you know, several times a day over the next few days, or once a week or a couple times a week over the next few weeks, what's going to happen eventually to the contents in here? Goes flat. And that's true for your trauma clients, whether it's the client who you're equipping with really good resources so that they can contain their trauma, and we'll talk about these differences, or whether it's the client that you're working with resolving trauma. When that's effective, you can shake the system as much as you want, and they can have their triggers out in their life, and you can still open it up every time. And that's when you know the work's really been effective.